Hey guys, uh, this video will be on Adolf Hitler, who is a very important figure in Germany from the 1930s to the 1940s. And a lot of you, I'm sure, have heard of him. He did quite a number of bad things, and that's what some of those bad things is what he's most famous for. But we're going to go into a little bit more of who he is. So we're going to identify Hitler, we're going to discuss his rise to power and his beliefs, and then also define a couple of these words. Lebensraum, which is a German word, and concentration camps. I will say that there is a ton of stuff on Adolf Hitler and Germany in the 1930s and 40s. So I just can simply not cover all that. There's just way too much. But I will give you just some of the important stuff. That's not to say that there isn't also a ton of stuff about like Benito Mussolini and Stalin and all those guys. It's just that for some reason, World War II and Hitler and Germany, they seem to have there seems to be a much stronger interest in people in Hitler and in Germany at this time. I don't really know why that is. And that's why I think about all the stuff that I could talk about, because I think there's just such a stronger interest in him than some other people. That's why I can't discuss all those things. But anyway, that's just my thought. So I will just go over some of the important things. All right, so let's start off with, well, who is he? You know, what was his life growing up? What was his life growing up? What are some of the things that he did? So first off, he was born in 1889 in Austria. So he wasn't even born in Germany. He was born in Austria. One really interesting thing about Adolf Hitler was that he loved the arts. He loved architecture and painting and music. And he had his favorite composer. He had his favorite music that he liked to listen to, and he loved it so much that he actually wasn't half bad at painting. He wasn't great at it, but he wasn't bad at it either. So he loved the arts so much that he applied to the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna, which is in Austria, to pursue a career as a painter. So he applied to this Academy of Fine Arts, and he tried to make it as a painter, but he failed. He failed to do so. He applied to this place, but he got rejected twice, and it was really heartbreaking for him. And at the same time, he also lost his mother. I think kind of unexpectedly. I think, but a lot of those things caused Hitler to go into some really bad times emotionally, and afterwards he ended up getting into politics and leadership and all those things. But that's just some stuff about his early life. But also, what was interesting is that Hitler fought in World War I. I think I think he like carried messages in between the trenches. I think that's what he did. But he fought in World War I and he was also proud to be a German nationalist. If you remember what nationalism is, it's kind of all about wanting your country to be, you know, bigger, better, stronger, and more successful. That's basically what it means. But also, sometimes nationalists can also mean wanting to become stronger, better, and more powerful, even if it means kind of like, even if it means kind of like maybe hurting other countries. Like if you're a German nationalist, you might not have a problem maybe going to war with other countries and maybe defeating them. At least that's how it was with German nationalism. All right. So this is Hitler's rise to power. After World War I, he joined this group called the German Workers' Party, and he eventually became their leader in 1920. And some of the stuff that they believed in making Germany a great nation, and they also blamed Germany's problems on communists and Jewish people. Now, I want you to think about what happened to Germany after World War I. Remember, Germany lost World War I, so they were forced to kind of take the blame for starting it and for causing all the destruction. Germany had to pay this huge bill for kind of paying for the war, and it really, really hurt Germany's economy. Germany became pretty poor after World War I, and so Hitler just kind of steps in and he's like, you know what, I'm going to solve Germany's problems, and I'm going to make the nation really strong and powerful and great. But of course, he wouldn't do that unless Germany was in a really, really bad place after World War I. Their military after World War I was greatly reduced. It was made smaller, and Germany had to give up some of their lands. So if you're Hitler and you really love your country, you're thinking, you know what? I don't like that Germany is in this really, really bad spot. In fact, it really makes him angry, and he does a few things out of his anger that kind of get him into trouble. But again, I can't really go into that much. So he became worked in the German Workers' Party, and then he later formed the National Socialist German Workers' Party, and that's where we get the word Nazi from. You can see that a little bit better. There we go. That's where we get the word Nazi from. The Nazi is actually the very first part of the word national. And if you look at the German word for national, it's actually spelled with the N-A-Z-I. Nazi just means that there is the beginning of the German word for nationalist. Some of you have seen this symbol before. This is a swastika. It's kind of like just 4 lines and they're kind of twisted. But this is actually an ancient symbol that was borrowed from India, I believe is where it comes from. And it actually originally means good luck or luck. But Hitler and some other people borrowed this symbol, and that became the symbol for Nazis. So just interesting fact. All right, and then after that, Hitler became Germany's chancellor in 1933. Chancellor is kind of what they called Germany's leader back in 1933. All right, so I'm going to go over just for a few minutes the beliefs of Hitler and National Socialism. One of the key aspects of National Socialism is this idea of a master race. What that is that Germany and Hitler, he believed that Germany, or the people that lived in Germany, were the best race, and they were very much racists. They thought that their race was the best, and that all others, especially Jews, were not as good, or they were kind of like inferior, meaning not good. And that because they thought people like Jews and some other people were not as good, they thought that Jews just need to be gotten rid of. And unfortunately, that led to Hitler and the Nazis to kill millions of Jews, because they just thought that they were inferior and they just weren't good, and they didn't really deserve to live with the master race. And so they either killed them or they put them in this thing called concentration camps. Concentration, now you may think that, it's like you're trying to think really hard. Well, that's not exactly what it means. In a concentration camp, that means a large number of people that are gathering in a certain place. And in concentration camps, those large amounts of people that are gathered in those places, it's overcrowded, it's very uncomfortable, it's dirty. There's not enough food to go around, and it's not a pleasant place at all. That's what a concentration camp is. All right, another belief is that this kind of goes along with the idea of nationalism, is that you want to, at least in Germany's case, you want to invade and conquer other lands for living space for Germany. And there's this word called Lebensraum, and that kind of means living space for Germany, for the Germans that Hitler thinks are the best, or are part of the master race. Well, what are they going to do in that living space? Well, they're going to, of course, live, but they're also going to make they're gonna make future generations of the master race. They're gonna have kids. True Germans are gonna get together and they're gonna make kids. And that's kind of what that idea of living space is for. And also, one more thing, the beliefs of Hitler National Socialism, they do not like democracy at all. So you think if you think about democracy, it's all about people coming together and trying to solve their problems peacefully. They're not really fighting with each other, but they're trying to solve their problems peacefully. And Hitler does not like that at all. He thinks it's a bad form of government, and he thinks, and he's more into like fighting and invading other countries and all that. Hitler just did not really value other people he thought were different. All right, so those are some of the basic things. So if your homework, just kind of continue working on this, filling out this chart. If you have any questions, just email me.